just focus on growth hormone and adrenal axis. Before we go to the hormone change, now before we talk about hormonal changes, we need to know certain basic about circadian rhythm. What is the genesis of circadian rhythm? What is the center which is responsible for that? There is an endogenous rhythm in the body, which is separate from the environmental cue, and it has an autorhythmicity of 25 to 24 hours. The nucleus for this is called suprachiasmatic nuclei, which is a master circadian clock. It's bilateral, present in the anterior hypothalamus near the third ventricle. This nucleus determines the circadian rhythm. It has an autorhythmicity of around 24-hour period, but it needs entrainment. And this entrainment comes from the environment. From the pupil, light enters and stimulates the cones and rods and ganglion, photopigment in the ganglion cell, and through retinohypothalamic tract, the projection goes to the suprachiasmatic nuclei. This is one way by which environmental cue can entrain the inherent rhythmicity in the suprachiasmatic nuclei. Of course, besides day and night, we have body temperature, exercise, feeding, which can modify this circadian rhythm to some extent, but primarily it is a light cycle. Somehow it so happens that autorhythmicity has adjusted to body needs and behavior, and we have a biological day and biological night. During the daytime, we are alert and awake. During the night time, we are sleepy. And same way, there are circadian rhythms in the hormones which are adjusted to this body behavior. And how it happens? The projection from the suprachiasmatic nuclei, they project to the hypothalamus. They project to the cerebral cortex. They project to the pineal gland through a circuitous route, which is very circuitous compared to other route, through autonomic system. And with the help of these projections, there is a balance between circadian rhythm and biological day and night. So what you see, this is just the repetition of what he said. The external cue enters from the eye, goes to the suprachiasmatic nuclei, and there are projections from this nuclei to the cortex and hypothalamus again, which determines the hormonal rhythm, circadian rhythm of the hormones. And there is another circuitous route which goes down to the thoracic vertebra, upper thoracic vertebra, and then through ganglion back to the pineal gland, which makes the melatonin. So these are the, again, just like there is autorhythmicity in the suprachiasmatic nuclei, because there is a projection to the pineal gland, there is a rhythmic discharge from the pineal gland also, which matches with that of suprachiasmatic nuclei. So you can say that by and large, the circadian rhythm and biological day and night, they matches. But difference can happen, and that's what we are going to discuss, whether the circadian rhythm are the one which are determining the hormonal changes, whether hormonal changes can give as to differences in the biological day and night as reflected in the EEG. This part has been covered in the morning just to show in the cartoon form. The first sleep is usually non-REM sleep, which is taken as equivalent to intense sleep. Afterwards, then you have REM sleep. So first sleep is REM sleep, which is of phase 2 and 3, 4. And then these phases comes again, but in a shallow form. But primarily it is the REM sleep which occurs near morning. So there is an inherent rhythm in the hormonal system because of projections to the hypothalamus from suprachiasmatic nuclei. And you can say that whatever we are seeing in the hormonal changes in the circadian form, it is a reflection of suprachiasmatic nuclei, it's not something else. But then we can study this, whether it is circadian rhythm or it is the environmental induced changes in the hormones. And there is a protocol called forced protocol, where we make the condition dim light. Person remains awake. We ask him to remain awake, take isocaloric food at equal distance throughout the day, and that's how he escapes from the environmental cue, and whatever we see, that is feature of circadian rhythm. Repeated hormonal samples are taken to see what are the circadian pattern in the hormones. Various hormones, they are important in the circadian hormone and day and night sleep, and the important ones, these are two topmost: growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone axis, corticotropic releasing hormone and cortisol axis. These are the most important hormone, followed by melatonin, which are important in sleep. This is primarily determined by circadian rhythm. This also by circadian rhythm, but growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone, they are determined not only by circadian rhythm also, but by the environmental clue also. I'll come to the importance of all this in subsequent slides. There are other minor hormones, various neuropeptides, ghrelin, somatostatin, sex hormone, which can influence the sleep. So we can say in the what has been known over a period of year is that first half of the sleep we have more of growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone. Whereas in the second half of sleep, that is near morning, we have more of corticotropic releasing hormone and cortisol. That's why morning cortisol is high. We have morning cortisol which is around 25 microgram percent, whereas the evening which is around 5. So morning cortisol is high because it starts rising from the early morning itself, from 6 a.m. around. This is shown in this cartoon form, both growth hormone and cortisol axis. So this is the beginning of the sleep in the night. You see, first phase, as soon as when the sleep begins, the growth hormone surge happens. It remains till midnight and then falls. It has importance in the diabetes also, but I will not cover that because the Somogyi phenomena is related to this, and Down's phenomena, they are related to this growth hormone surges and cortisol surges. The cortisol surge occurs from midnight and goes on in the morning, because this is a period of awakefulness and REM sleep. It is said that these changes, they relate to the sleep pattern, REM sleep and non-REM sleep. Non-REM sleep, which is slow wave sleep or intense sleep, is related to the growth hormone and growth hormone releasing hormone axis, whereas the awakefulness or tendency to awakefulness or disturbed sleep, we can say that what happens in the morning is because of the cortisol CRH axis. Though what I have told is about the human being in general, but there is sexual dimorphism. This what you see here of single peak of growth hormone is typical of males, but in females you see multiple peaks of growth hormone in the nights. So there is not only one peak, but you can see a peak here also. So this sexual dimorphism may have some relevance in the form of biological adaptation, because females, they are more prone to depression and disturbed sleep in later age compared to the males. And this may be a bioadaptation that they have more of disturbed sleep, so there is more of growth hormone. But this is just a hypothesis. So just go back to, but it appears that this could be a circadian rhythm, but it may not be, because if you see the growth hormone rise, if you sleep during daytime, then also you can have some rise in the growth hormone. So it means this circadian rhythm is influenced by the environmental clue also, but this is not seen in the CRH, cortisol axis. That is not influenced by the environmental rhythm. Now whatever changes you are seeing, you can say that whatever growth hormone rise you see in the early sleep, it could be because of the non-REM sleep. Rather than growth hormone giving rise to non-REM sleep, it could be non-REM sleep giving rise to growth hormone surge. You can argue like that also, but it's not like that. The infusion studies, they have shown that if you infuse growth hormone releasing hormone to volunteers, there is surge of growth hormone and induction of slow wave sleep. So it means that it is the GHRH infusion which is giving rise to slow wave sleep or NERM sleep. It is not the other way. When you give GHRH, not only there is an induction of slow wave sleep, there is a decreased cortisol also, which in a way is better for the sleep. So by these two things you can say that growth hormone surge which happens in the early phase of the sleep is good for the intense sleep by two ways: by growth hormone, by growth hormone itself, and by suppression of the cortisol in the early morning. A little bit more about sexual dimorphism and growth hormone releasing hormone. Because these are two main hormones which are linked with the sleep, and these are being utilized for the treatment of sleep disorders. So I will focus more on these two hormones, and that's what the title of the talk is. You can see that when growth hormone release hormone is given, there is increased growth hormone and decrease in the cortisol early morning. But in the females, when you give growth hormone releasing hormone, there is increase in the growth hormone, but there is increase in the cortisol also in the early morning. So this is called sexual dimorphism. When you give growth hormone releasing hormone to males, there is increased growth hormone in the early part of the night, and in the late night, in the early morning, there is a suppression of the cortisol. But in the females, when you give growth hormone releasing hormone, there is a rise of both growth hormone in the early part of sleep and cortisol also in the morning. So which is not good for the sleep point of view, because the rise in cortisol will give rise to more of wakefulness. So this dimorphism has to be important, and this could explain why there is an increased prevalence of depression in the females, especially after menopause. There is more Cushing syndrome in females. Till now we do not have any clear-cut reason why Cushing syndrome is more common in females rather than males. But this could be a reason that the growth hormone surge, which happens in the early part of release, instead of suppressing cortisol in the morning, just like as we see in the males, in females it increases cortisol in the morning. So in other words, cortisol levels, they are inherently high in the early morning phase in females compared to the males. These are just hypotheses, but then for things which we do not know. But from the volunteer study and from the influence study, we have come to know that that's what happened in the females, unlike males. Ghrelin is just like growth hormone. It stimulates growth hormone. It is a hormone which is released from the stomach, increase the appetite, and because it releases growth hormone, we expect that it will have effect like that of growth hormone, which will also prove that growth hormone leads to increase NERM sleep in the morning, and that's what we see after ghrelin infusion in the volunteers. When you infuse ghrelin, which is just like growth hormone, which is a growth hormone receptor secretagogue in the hypothalamus. When you give ghrelin, there is an increased slow wave activity, which is similar to that of growth hormone. So this tells us that growth hormone and its analogs, growth hormone and its secretagogues in the hypothalamus, they leads to increase NERM sleep in the early phase. We expect opposite with somatostatin, and that's what has been seen when you infuse somatostatin in volunteers. The slow wave activity is reduced. So this tells us that growth hormone rise in the early part of the night is very important for the sound sleep and intense sleep. This is totally different what we talked in the morning, that excess of growth hormone acromegaly gives rise to obstructive sleep apnea. But here we are talking the normal physiology. There we were talking about the abnormal supra-high levels. The arginine, which is a somatostatin antagonist, increases the slow wave sleep. So in other words, there are many evidences which suggest that growth hormone rise after sleep, which happens once in the males and multiple times in the females, is good for the NERM sleep or intense sleep. Now let's see the second axis, the CRH. There is a rise in cortisol and there is rise in CRH in the experimental animals. If you see the CSF level of CRH. So people assume that this rise in cortisol, which is seen in the early morning, is because of CRH, and it is the cortisol which determines the REM sleep. It's not. It could be CRH, but it could be cortisol also. That's what the hypothesis was going on. And you see when there is the same cartoon here again, that when the cortisol in the early morning before awakening, there is more of REM sleep. Pulsatile. So one way to sort it out is to give CRH infusion to volunteers, to give cortisol infusion to volunteers, or to give ACTH infusion to the volunteer and see the effect on sleep and different phases of sleep. When pulsatile CRH is given in young males, it is available commercially and can be given 100 microgram. We usually routinely give to test the ACTH axis. So when volunteers were given intravenous corticotropic releasing hormone, the cortisol increased in the night, but the growth hormone surge blunted, and they were decreased slow wave sleep. So you can say that if you give CRH, it has given the things which you see normally, that growth hormone surge was stopped. So what you can see that more of CRH will give rise to less of NERM sleep in the early morning. And these changes which you see with CRH infusion, they are more intense with aging. I'll come to this point why they are more intense with aging after some time. When we see the sleep pattern of aging and depressed patient, they are almost similar. The importance comes here of CRH. Till now I have told you to summarize that growth hormone surge in the early phase of night is important for the induction of sleep and good sleep, and the cortisol surge which is seen in the early morning is not good. It creates awakefulness and disrupts sleep, multiple awakenings. In stress rats, the experimental studies, if you give CRH antagonist, it's alpha helical analog of CRH, not receptor antagonist, but CRH antagonist, which is available as in the form of acetylcholine. The REM sleep was decreased, because if you give CRH, there is more of REM sleep. But if you give its antagonist, we expect REM sleep to be decreased, and that's what happened in the experimental animal. Same thing can happen if you give the receptor antagonist of CRH in human volunteers. This is the compound which was in development stage. So when the CRH receptor antagonist was given to the volunteers, there was more of NERM sleep and less of REM sleep, and reduce awakening after CRH receptor antagonist. So in other words, we can say the growth hormone in the early part of life, early phase of the night is good, and CRH is bad, and CRH antagonist, whether it's the antagonist of hormone itself or its receptor antagonist, they will lead to better slow wave sleep. These CRH receptor antagonists are in the development phase, and this is one way to counteract sleep induces the disturbance of sleep which are seen in patients with various sleep disorders, be it depression or senior people. So these changes, but whatever I have told you, it could have been because of CRH, because ACTH ultimately will give rise to increased ACTH if you infuse CRH, but people have not seen these changes after infusion of ACTH. They have not seen similar changes which you see with CRH on sleep are not seen with ACTH. But still, steroid story remains, whether the cortisol rise is the determinant of the sleep changes we see in the early morning, or it is the CRH itself. This again could be easily proven in force protocol. When we give continuous hourly infusion of hydrocortisone in the physiological dose, there was increased slow wave sleep. This is unlike CRH, because if you infuse CRH, the slow wave sleep is decreased. But if you give cortisol infusion in physiological dose, there is a increased slow wave sleep. So in other words, whatever changes you saw and whatever changes you are seeing normally in physiology, they are happening because of CRH, not because of ACTH or because of steroid. This is about the physiology, but this doesn't remain when you give high dose steroids, and reverse happens of the normal physiology. So in normal physiology, the early cortisol rise in the morning, it's a reflection of CRH rise, and it's a CRH which determines the REM sleep. This is a cartoon which shows what are the various changes we see in the different individuals. Young person, more of NERM sleep. This sleep goes down in the elderly people. Person with depression has pattern like that of senior person. So what you see in a depressed person, you have less of NERM sleep, which is same as that of elderly sleep. So sleep pattern of young depressed person is same that of elderly person. In other words, less of NERM sleep in the early phase of night. So if you want to make these two people normal, just like of this person, what you have to do is to induce hormonal changes like that of this person. So that's how the efforts are going on to make sleep profiles similar to that of young people by giving hormonal analogs. Growth hormone releasing hormone is one way. But then, of course, that option is not viable because it is injectable form and costly. It's injectable form and costly. So we have to depend on oral analogs subsequently. Just missed one slide. This is the total of all the slides of the sleep pattern and the hormonal changes. You see early cortisol rise in the depressed young person, which is more that of a normal person. This is normal young person, cortisol of young person, normal young person, depressed young person, cortisol of depressed person. You can see it is more in the young person. If you see the growth hormone surge, normal growth hormone surge in a young person, and this is the kind of surge we see in a depressed young person. So you see less of growth hormone surge in the depressed person in the early morning compared to normals. Same thing happens for the cortisol. Old person, normal, there is a cortisol surge, but this surge is much more. So in other words, there is an antagonism between growth hormone, releasing hormone, and CRH. So this antagonism you have to tackle to take care of the sleep disturbances. Though it is easier said than done because there is no good drug available. So how to use this information in these two hormones? There are various disorders of sleep described due to misalignment in the sleep cycle. When the circadian rhythm and the inputs, they get disturbed, then you have sleep disturbances. For example, a person who used to sleep during the night time goes for night shift, then his sleep disturbances happens, and hormonal changes are one way to take care of this. Jet lag, obviously, we all know that melatonin has a sleep promoting effect, and this can be used as a substitute to take care of the misalignment in the circadian and sleep cycle. Cushing disease patient, they are often depressed. This interesting information which I came across, beta blockers. They are known to increase wakefulness, and often beta blockers are given to patients with myocardial infarction post-MI. Though of course it is good to those patients who are anxious, but if person is not anxious and if we are giving beta blocker for the sake of secondary prevention, then it can promote wakefulness by antagonizing melatonin. So if we give the concept coming that if we give beta blocker with melatonin, it will reduce this wakefulness. This is very recent information which is coming these days that if you do day and night shift, these people, they are more prone to obesity. This last study in more than 1 lakh women, and when they were asked about the prevalence of diabetes and obesity, it coincided with the number of hours they had worked, number of years they have worked for night shift. The higher the number of years for which they have worked during the night shift, the larger was the prevalence of the obesity and diabetes mellitus. There is a biological basis for this from the experimental studies. Animals who are kept awake in the night, they tend to eat more. This I discussed earlier in the morning. They tend to become obese and they eat more during the awake period. This misalignment can give rise to infertility also, but there is limited data on this. I could hardly, with detailed search also, I could find only few studies. Besides growth hormone analogs and CRH antagonist, melatonin is another way, simpler way to tackle misalignment, because nocturnal peak of melatonin in normal person happens at 2 a.m. and those who are depressed and those who have obstructive sleep apnea and sleep disturbances, this melatonin peak may be shifted. We don't know the reason for this because primarily it is circadian driven melatonin rhythm. It's not the environmental clue. But of course these minor disturbances are seen in sleep disorders, and this can be made use of when we treat these patients. If a person is awake during daytime after night shift, people who do night shift, they often have difficulty in maintaining sleep during daytime. So you can give them sustained release melatonin preparation to support their sleep stays. Last slide.
This is the last one.
Last slide, sir.
Okay.
Then I discussed growth hormone releasing hormone is not a good choice for obvious reason because it is costly, injectable, not available. CRH antagonists, they are being tried and they are in phase 1 and phase 2 trials. Thanks a lot.